In the Premier League, Liverpool benefited from one and made it count at the top of the table, while Spurs did well to recover from one. So tonight, we're going to talk about keeping calm and taking the 3 points. Hi guys, I hope you had a fantastic weekend. We're going to be globe-trotting on tonight's show as we travel from Bramall Lane to Dortmund to Qatar, with various other stops in between. And here are just three of our talking points. Well, there was nothing ingenious about the Reds this time out, but their winning run continues thanks to a howler from Henderson. Meanwhile, Hugo Lloris made up for his own gaffe, so how about we lay off him this time out? And in Europe, big boys Bayern and Barcelona capitalised on slip-ups by their immediate rivals in Germany and Spain. And I think you'll agree there's an absolutely huge amount to get through tonight. John Wilkinson's with me. Let's start off by having a look at the Premier League weekend so far. I should point out that Manchester United against Arsenal is still to come in a short while. If you go elsewhere on this show's Facebook page, you can see fans' thoughts on that, our thoughts on that, and lots to say about that one. John, we've seen 27 goals over the 9 matches played so far, and that tells me mathematically it's 3 a game here, but some goals are more valuable than others. Which results caught your eye?
Certainly, yeah, no stalemates. Not a lot of pretty results, but key wins. Key win for Man City. They had to dig deep defensively, still not great. West Ham's 2-2 with Bournemouth. I think that was a key one. When we look at the table, that's incredibly important. But right at the top there, Sheffield United versus Liverpool. Did Liverpool deserve it? Probably not. Do they care? Definitely not.
Even Klopp said it should have been a draw, didn't he? Let's have a look at what it means to the league table before we get to our next guest. Well, at the top, it means that it's Liverpool still perfect, just about, still on course for that Premier League record. What's fascinating to me is this little run here. Leicester deservedly in 3rd place there, but then just 1 point separating 4th place West Ham and 9th place Crystal Palace. We've got an incredible jam here, and of course Arsenal could also be joining them because they still have that game against Manchester United to come. United could pick up points, go to 11. Arsenal could find themselves going up into the top 4 in this table here. Mark Schwarzer is our regular Monday guest, and he joins us from the UK as ever. Mark, good to have you with us here. What do you make of this jockeying for position behind the top 2? It's fascinating this season, isn't it?
It is, and I mean, we saw it a lot last season, didn't we? The top 2, they broke away pretty early, and then the rest of it was sort of jostling for those final 2 places in the Champions League. I don't see any differently, other than I think there'll be more teams involved in trying to get in those Champions League positions come the end of the season.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. All right, let's get to the latest of these victories, and there have been plenty of them for Liverpool Football Club, but this is the least convincing of them all. I'm saying that, the newspaper's saying that, Jurgen Klopp is saying that one. It's a grind of magic they channel their inner queen there in terms of that lyric, and it was a hard way of doing it. But John, why didn't they win the league last year? Because they drew matches. Yeah, going to grind their way to wins if they can.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said for the amount of pressure that they put on teams. Maybe not just in this game, but their reputation automatically puts pressure on Sheffield. New Sheffield, towards the latter stage of the game, you know, they think, well, okay, we're going to hold the European champions here. Shot comes in, no such joy.
Okay, so that's why you get your shots on target, Mark, isn't it? Because it was Gini Wijnaldum who, with good technique, got a volley into the ground on target, and as luck would have it, it was a Manchester United lad in Henderson who let it go through his legs. It happens, doesn't it?
Mate, I've been there, done that. I know exactly how he's feeling. It's the most basic error you can make, and it's literally him, I think, taking his eye off the ball. Technically, it wasn't great because he didn't get behind it. Now, all the kind of the basic levels of teaching in terms of goalkeeper, get your body behind it, get something behind it. He didn't. I think he just thought this was really easy. You're going to scoop it up, and I'm going to look to play it. And by the time you do that, sometimes it slips through and it's in the back of the net.
And then, of course, the story moves on a bit, doesn't it? So there it is, golden blunder, the headline there. He doesn't want to see that again. And, you know, all the goalkeepers, Mark included, have come out and said something. What I find really interesting here is that Liverpool get a helping hand here. Management's easy here. Klopp's turned around and sort of said, OK, we'll take it. Chris Wilder, Sheffield United boss, has said, I'm not going to be putting an arm around that guy. No, and that's interesting, because you could go one of 2 ways with your keeper, couldn't you, if you're a manager?
I'm not sure all keepers would want an arm put around them either. You know, goalkeepers, they're a strange bunch. They would deal with it. A lot of goalkeepers would deal with it differently. They would like to wallow a little bit, goalkeepers, and then get on with it. He'll be a better goalkeeper for it, I'm sure.
Well, okay. I mean, apart from the fact that he's just called you odd, Mark.
Strange.
If you'd done that, would you want a manager to say you're better than that? You've really messed up. You've cost us, or would you want an arm around your shoulder and a little bit of a sort of a hug?
Well, it depends on what stage of your career you're at. And I think, the fact that Dean Henderson's his first time in the Premier League, he did very well for them last season in the Championship, but this is the big boys league. This is where it all counts. It's huge. And he's got to learn very, very quickly. And it's interesting to hear the manager say that. And I know he's quite hard in the way he manages. So listen, Dean Henderson will know that. He's had him for over a season before, so he'll just have to, suck it up, take it on the chin and get on with it.
Let's turn your attention back to Liverpool right now. I spoke about them not wanting to draw matches, knowing that City is so good, that Liverpool are just going to have to win their way to the title. Jurgen Klopp arguably made his own luck. I don't think you can say that mistake comes about because of what he's doing. But he didn't say, it's not our day, I haven't got a plan B. If we look at what he did, he sent Origi on as early as the 64th minute of this football match. And John, have a look at what it did to the shape of the team here. Suddenly he's got options. He's going for it at least, isn't he?
Suddenly there's a little bit more consistency and balance in between the players there. And Origi playing very, very high up indeed, because Mane was playing incredibly deep. It was a gamble. Of course it was a gamble. But
because he got light in midfield, didn't he?
Yeah, he did really light there. And Fabinho really needs to put his foot in. We spoke about that before we came on air, John. He looks like he's toughened up a little bit and was holding that midfield area nicely. But the good coaches, they find a way to affect the game, and he certainly did that, Klopp.
It's fine margins if they're going to win this one. If you look at what they're doing, we're going to come to their fixtures in just a minute, but let's have a look at some feedback as well in terms of what the viewers are making of what we're seeing here. Liverpool fans or otherwise. Imran Faris has written in already. Chris Wilder deserves huge credit for the football play by the Blades. Nullifying Liverpool's fullbacks was a smart way to stop Liverpool playing the usual game. It's a good spot, Imran. Very, very good. Let's take a little look again by what we've seen of this football team here. Fullbacks, you're absolutely right. They negated them. We don't often see a lack of impact then from Robertson or Trent or whoever's playing in the fullback position there. What Liverpool have to keep doing, as I've already said, is keep winning. And Mark, if we take a look at the fixtures they've played so far, and if we have a look at what they did at the start of last season, we've lined them up side by side here. They've actually played a similar bunch of teams. But the difference is they won 6 out of them last time. They've won them all this time. And they're going to have to, aren't they? They're going to have to put away particularly the lesser lights.
Well, what's happened is last season showed Liverpool they had an incredible season, but still finished second. And they know now that there's such fine margins between winning the Premier League title and not, particularly when you've got a team like Manchester City in the competition. And I think it's going to go that way again this season. I think they're going to be pushed all the way.
I said something on Twitter the other day. I said, titles are won with scrappy 1-0s, and somebody immediately leapt in there going, you don't win the title in September. Of course you don't. And Pep Guardiola's had to have a little chat about this. He's, never mind the gap. He's saying, I'm not worried. I'd be worried about that kit, John, but that's another talking point here.
Yeah.
He's saying it's okay, it's manageable. He'll put the pressure back on Liverpool, won't he?
Yeah, he will. He did come out and say that they couldn't afford to allow Liverpool to get a little bit further from them. Now, no, you don't win the title so early on, but you win the title every month, every game by game, goal by goal, point by point.
It's funny, it's a 3-1. But they had to dig really deep as well, didn't they? You look at the saves from Edison. This was by no means an easy result for them. And what I liked about the Mark, and I'd like to talk about this, is the fact that Manchester City have to keep scoring goals, and they've had to turn to, Mahrez this time around. And Mahrez stepped up for them, didn't he, with Sterling having a rest?
Yeah, listen, he's a top-class player. I played with him for a year and a half at Leicester. And he was a standout player there. I mean, sometimes he floated in and out of games. He's training. His head went a little bit at times. He got a little bit disinterested. But I doubt that's happening at Man City. It's not allowed to happen. Let's be honest. Guardiola will be making sure that they're fully focused and raring to go. And Mahrez has obviously rolled his sleeves up and sees an unbelievable opportunity that he has to play at such an unbelievable club and an unbelievable side, and he's doing very, very well.
Yeah, it took him a while though. That was the thing, wasn't it? We know a few weeks ago on this show, I think we stood and said, he's not quite offering them what Sané used to do. You know, if Sterling was out, Sané would step up. But we're having a look at some numbers here, John, and let's compare Mahrez and Sterling. What do you see from the numbers?
Well, they're very, very similar. I think Mahrez now is doing similar things to what Sterling's doing. I think he's starting in a wider position than Sterling. Assists, absolutely key. Of course it is. He's involved in a lot more nowadays. I think that his teammates are trusting him a lot more. So in one-on-one situations, they're leaving him alone. They're not offering support. They're just leaving him alone and trusting him to make the difference. Total losses of possession, I think, is key, because if you look at Raheem Sterling's a little bit more direct. He's giving the ball away an awful lot. Mahrez doesn't give up possession anywhere near as much. One
more comparison. Let's see what Mahrez has been doing compared with Bernardo Silva, who may well have been their player of last season, quite honestly. These numbers, what do they tell you?
Oh, even more similar. Even more similar. I think even more, these two are more alike. And I think these two are going to be really scrapping it out in training for the starting positions now. Look, I don't think Mahrez is going to end up being as consistent as Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva is the future of Man City. I think another couple of seasons for Mahrez at Man City, and that will be it for him at top level. Key passes. Key passes, 17-5. That is key.
So, once again, City utterly formidable going forward. Let's get some feedback from Victor Sim, who's written in on this. Mahrez is the Algerian Robin, you say. Second season looks finally settled, especially with Leroy Sané out injured. He will be called upon more. Yeah, this is the compelling thing about this season, isn't it? They are just going to have to keep being absolutely brilliant going forward. One problem for City, we've spoken about this before, and we thought that Pep was happy with Fernandinho shoring things up at the back. He had a stinker. He had a stinker at the weekend. Great player, but defensively will back trouble bring Pep title pain. Warning signs. They creaked under pressure against Everton. You see Richarlison's comments afterwards. Richarlison came out and said, "Oi, Premier League, look out. We can get at this team. You can get at this team."
And the positions that a lot of the Everton players were taking up in between the lines was causing Fernandinho in particular huge problems. His starting position wasn't quite right. It seemed like he wasn't getting quite enough communication from his teammates, and he was pulled around all over the place. Loads of gaps there, bailed out by just some exceptional players in front of them.
Yeah, another headline here pointing out that Fernandinho is really their only option, and we're going to zoom in here on the options that they've got otherwise, because if you look at the Dinamo Zagreb tie that's coming along, the other options are youngsters. Eric Garcia and Taylor Harwood-Bellis are on standby. That's where they are right now. Mark, this is not a situation they can sustain, is it? You can't be in this position if you want to be winning the Premier League and the Champions League.
No, it's not. I think it's only about short term. If they can, if they can continue to get the results for the short term, once, whether it's John Stones comes back and is fit again, with Fernandinho playing centre half, then they've got a way of it. But I think it's definitely a lesson for the future. I'm surprised that Guardiola, like so many, didn't go out and get another centre half once Vincent Kompany left the club. But he decided that he felt that he had the players and the depth in the squad to deal with it. Now we'll see.
John, tell me in a football sense, if I'm right in suggesting this, they have a home game in the Champions League. They've already got themselves off to a fine start against Shakhtar. They play Dinamo Zagreb. There are going to be certain games, maybe in Europe, where Fernandinho is just fine. It's some of the Premier League teams that I would worry about in terms of getting at centre halves, or is that?
No, I think so. It's certainly the league. I think when you're in the Premier League, so often your backs are against the wall. You think you've just cleared the ball and you've got a chance to just push up a little bit when you're a back line. But it's blood, guts and thunder against certain teams. So the ball comes back at you so quickly that you can't catch your breath. It's a little bit like you doing your burpees, John.
All right, let's move on. Let's not image anyone wants in their minds right now. Prem Nath's been in touch with us on this very subject here. While Pep denies it, I see him going for a makeshift centre-back in January, probably an old guy. Could you suggest anyone better than Toby Alderweireld if he indeed still wants to make a move? Mark, could you think of... I mean, honestly, what is wrong with something like that? Unless there's some financial situation that precludes that.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, I don't get why Man City didn't buy him this summer. I don't understand why Man United didn't buy him. It's a bizarre one. I mean, I would have been, banging on their door trying to get his signature, because I think he's a top class player. And I think with the City players around him, the quality they have, he'd become even a better player.
The viewers are warming up a bit here, John. The feedback's starting to pour in right now. I think Imran's feeling very creative tonight. He's got another comment in here because everyone's got something to say about Liverpool or Manchester City or the title race. And Otamendi looks better beside Fernandinho than with Stones. This pairing could be the way forward till January. That's very optimistic because you're a Liverpool fan and you want City to play those two together. I know what you're thinking, Imran. Right, we're going to take a breather right now and come back with a bit of Spurs stuff, which means Mauricio Pochettino, which means the more, the merrier. Well, thanks as ever, guys, for joining us here on Facebook and watching the show. Thanks for all the comments. I know there's lots of Liverpool feedback, and don't worry, we've not moved on from that. We'll get into some of that Liverpool feedback shortly, but then we'll turn our attention to Spurs, Hugo Lloris, more goalkeeping blunders, lots of good stuff coming your way. Keep the comments coming. Liverpool fans, listen up. It's time to stand red with Standard Chartered. This new app unifies Liverpool fans all over the world. Join the build-up to every Premier League match day with the Reds. You can get call-ups from Jurgen Klopp's boys, touch the This Is Anfield sign, and even create your own animation that comes to life by scanning your official home shirt. So what are you waiting for? Download that free Standard Chartered Stand Red app via the Apple App Store or Google Play Store right now. Liverpool fans obviously have that, and they're firing questions in and comments into this show. Jerome Salazar. I can see part two of the Liverpool Man City tussle on the title this season. I'm expecting another title to be decided in the final of the season. I think the other clubs are not playing well, but these two are a level or two above them. Johnny Michael Tan, it was tough, it was rough. Liverpool just showed that they're in it to win it. I like this, Johnny Michael Tan. This 1-0 win at Bramall Lane could be the match, John Wilkinson, that matters most. What do you think?
Could be. It was certainly ugly, and they stuck in there once again. Fabinho, I thought breakout performance from him. Something we hadn't seen from him in a while.
Yeah, really tough. Talking about tough, I like that. We're talking about that earlier on. Let's get into Spurs right now, shall we, and see what they've been getting up to here. A quick look at Spurs results. 5th place for them. Okay, look, we know it's been patchy. We know that there have been ups and downs. We know that away from home, nothing is working for them. His old club came around, could have been nasty. In the end, it turned out to be an important victory, Mark Schwarzer, for a Spurs side who'd attracted more than their fair share of negativity in the run into this game. But they came through well in the end, didn't they?
They did. I mean, I expected them to win at home. I knew it would be a tough one. But, you look at the quality that Spurs possess. Yes, they haven't played that particularly well at times. However, it was a huge game and one that they desperately needed to win to get back in touching distance with those top other teams.
Yeah, and that was the whole point, wasn't it? It was all about being back and everything like that. So Harry Kane there setting the tone for a 10-man side, and so much good about them, really. I mean, if you look about the goal, for example, if you look at the quality of the finishing, Son and the part he plays in them, they still have it going forward. Ndombele, obviously a player who's brought in, took a while to settle, but important for them. Let's have a look at the build-up, shall we, to this goal, because when they're good, we have to remind ourselves this is a team that can take on anyone in Europe, John.
Yeah, and we have to ask ourselves, when are they good? When are they good? And it's usually when Son, Eriksen, Kane are involved, of course, and they're a little bit more direct. I don't like it when they try and overplay in that final third. I like it when Son, he sees the angle and he just goes for it. And that's when Spurs are at their most ruthless. I think they can be a little bit bitty at times and over elaborate in that central midfield area. But they looked a bit sharper, a little bit more confident. I like Harry Winks, Mark. Do you like him? I mean, it's a big part of the pitch. He's a young man still. Do you think he's growing into that role?
Yeah, I think he is. I think he's a very good player. I mean, he's, like so many players, unfortunately, the problem he's had over time is injuries. If he can stay fit, get a consistent run on the team, he will be a mainstayer. He'll be a very important player for them.
All right, Hugo's real howler. Horrible, horrible. Drag backs, Cruyff turns on your own goal line. What was interesting about this one is he makes the mistake, he then makes a couple of stunning saves. On the balance of the piece, he's probably done all right. He came out afterwards and said, "Look, I'm really sorry, I should not be making mistakes like that, and I always tried my best to make up for it." Pochettino's management. I asked you about Chris Wilder's management earlier on, so let's have a look at Pochettino's management. He said, "I don't want anyone to blame him in this action. I want the blame because I'm asking them to play that way." He's so strong mentally, and of course he showed he wasn't affected by this situation. Mark, I'll come to you as the goalkeeper here, because I like this. It's a modern thing. We're seeing goalkeepers doing stupid things, letting in stupid goals, getting robbed of the ball. But if the manager comes out and says, "It's okay because I want them to play that way," well, that's a united front at least, isn't it?
It is, and fair play to Mauricio Pochettino. We talk about Hugo Lloris, and I'm a big fan of him. I think he's a top class goalkeeper. But the concerning thing over the last couple of seasons is the number of mistakes that he's made that have led directly to a goal. I think the really, really top goalkeepers maybe make one or two of those a season, and I think you'll find with him he's making far more.
Yeah, well, we've counted them up actually, Mark, and it's 9 that have led directly to goal since the start of the 16-17 season. But John, the thing about Lloris, and we've known this all along, is he was the original sweeper keeper in English football, wasn't he, of the modern era? Yeah. And he's now taken upon himself to do drag backs and what have you. So where do you, look at that face, where are you on this? A national team as well, remember?
Where am I on it? Look, I don't like it. I don't like it. I think I've played in teams where goalkeepers have made mistakes, and then they berate you as a midfielder or you as a centre back because you're not creating an angle for them. We're seeing more and more teams this season, more than any. Juventus are trying to do it as well. Play along that back line, a play from the 18-yard box out. It seemed like he had just a bit of a lapse in concentration. He didn't know when to offload it. He was looking for something else. And I don't think the movement was forthcoming. I'm not trying to protect him. Goodness knows, you never see me protecting goalkeepers. But his reaction was absolutely fantastic, though. Some of the stops he was making, he had no right to make after that.
Yeah, you're going to argue that he shouldn't have to keep doing it.
No, for sure. For sure.
Okay.
For sure. And especially in this team, especially in the Spurs. Spurs need him in top form right now if they're going to make them Champions League spots.
He at least stayed on the pitch to rectify his error. Serge Aurier didn't. What's he doing? Serge Aurier. I don't know if you agree with me on this one, but Serge Aurier, I mean, this is him saying, sorry for giving up the team at an important moment, happy with the victory, work of the guys, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry. I mean, Mark, the first challenge could have been a red, if you ask me, because it was one of those horrible wraparound scissory things that not long ago we were told could have been a straight red, and then he goes and does a pullback a few minutes later. I mean, he's not helping the cause, is he there?
No, I mean, it's just a brain freeze, wasn't it, the second one particularly? I mean, they think the ball's gone out. He thinks it's gone out. I mean, it's a cardinal sin. Don't think, just play to the whistle. How many times do we get told that as footballers, just play to the whistle? And he's only got himself to blame, and it was comical, it was stupidity, and they got away with it.
Yeah, and again, it focuses on a position in which Spurs, if you ask me, I like, particularly given Trippier's performances in Spain right now. Jerome's written in, Spurs are a hot and cold team this season. You don't know what you expect of them. They could beat anyone, but also lose to anyone. Inconsistency is what will separate Spurs from trophies. Yeah, Jerome, I can fully understand that. And away form, of course, is a major problem too.
Yeah, it is. It certainly is. Look, we expect Spurs to drift away towards the end of the season, not right now. Being bitty now doesn't bode well, and some of the players look a little bit tired, John.
Let's see what it means to them in terms of the European context right now. So there we are then. So they find themselves coming into a second match day here in Group B. They do so coming into this one with a point. They'll be frustrated that it's only a point from the first game and not more than that. And they find themselves coming up against a Bayern Munich side and, of course, a former North London player in Serge Gnabry. Now, this is a guy who is interesting the way that the press works on this. He's described in this Rob Draper piece here in the Mail as the Tony Pulis reject. I mean, it's a very sort of Anglo approach to this particular story, because I think we knew what he was before he even went to a manager that was never going to get anything. I mean, Mark, this guy, knowing what we know about him now in Bayern Munich colours, particularly the way he took that sublime pass from Coutinho the other day, he was never going to be a Tony Pulis player, was he?
No, that was a complete mismatch. It goes without saying.
Gnabry is, I think, genuinely, he's a future Ballon d'Or winner. Genuinely, genuinely, I certainly believe that. But I have said that about Kingsley Coman. He has a few things that he's got to brush up on for sure. But he's at the right club to do it. He's linking up with one of the greatest all-round strikers
Sancho,
ever.
Callum Hudson-Odoi good.
They're all like that. Oh, absolutely fantastic. I mean, what's he get? Another couple of assists week in, week out. He's involved in goals constantly. And Arsenal sold him for £5 million. And I put a tweet out when he got sold. When he got sold to Germany, I put a tweet out. It's far too cheap for a guy of that pace and of that pedigree. And I got a former England international messaging me back and saying, yeah, but did you know he was going to be this good, John? No, I didn't. But I wasn't working with him every day in the Arsenal Academy. There's scouts and academy coaches there. They should know that. That's what they're getting paid for. Fantastic footballing. It'll go on and get better and better.
Okay, let's have a little chat about something Mark was working on the other day, which was that Paderborn game. And Lewandowski, he missed a sitter, but that's not what we talk about in the context of Lewandowski, because he's only gone and broken the record, hasn't he? So there you are, match day 6, and how many has he got already? 10 goals. Mark, you're about to tell me why it should be at least 11 here, but he's in some really good company there. Look at that, Heinkes, Gerd Muller. He's beaten them all.
Well, he should be on 12. I mean, he should have the penalty pass line finish. I mean, he gets a little bit of luck with the ball through, because it was a dummy in the end, or was a bad pass in the end, but turned into a fantastic pass. But what a player he can be! What a finisher! Incredible.
Right. How do Spurs stop him? What happens in the game?
How do you stop him? You've got to stop the supply line to him. Simple as that. Because he's been in form for about 5 seasons now.
Yeah. Okay.
And better defences than Spurs have failed to stop him. So you've got to stop that supply line. I wanted to ask Mark about Coutinho, because that's where a lot of the supply line is going to come from. What are we thinking of Coutinho so far in Bayern Munich colours, Mark? He looked good again.
He did. I mean, I still think he's definitely not at the level he was when he was at Liverpool. He's still finding his way. But the signs are very, very, very encouraging. I think he's done really well. And let's not forget, we talked about Gnabry before, Kingsley Coman on the other side, and then Lewandowski. Just the movement, everything goes through Coutinho, and he's just sublime. One touch, sometimes he takes a touch, finds the pass. It's incredible. He has actually given Bayern an edge over the rest of the teams in the league because of once they signed him, because how good he is.
Yeah. Well, that famous Liverpool fan, Imran, I mentioned earlier on, I knew we would hear from him. Good to see Coutinho finding his feet at Bayern this season. His pass has been sublime. Red colour seems to bring out the best in him.
Good call.
Little wink there. Yeah, absolutely right. Okay, enjoy that game.
Sorry, John. Just
another one down here.
Serge Gnabry. Someone got mentioned. Serge Gnabry looks like a Jurgen Klopp type of player. Ooh. Have a look at that.
Prem says Gnabry looks like a Klopp player. I'm just saying.
No, he's just saying.
Oh, hang on, we got another emoji there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do like the odd little emoji.
We do, don't we? Yeah. Foxes. I know there's a fox emoji, isn't there? Let's get a few of those in, because we're going to be talking about the Foxes, who are flying. Mr. Schwartz's former team really taking Newcastle apart. We'll talk about that next. Then I'll do my slate. Right, 5 goals for the Flying Foxes of Leicester against Newcastle United. They fly up the table and reinforce many people's belief that they are going to be a factor in the race for top 6, maybe even top 4. We're going to discuss them, and also West Ham United, who have quietly gone places this season as well, in just a few moments. So stay with us. Welcome back, and thank you very much for getting those comments in. We've seemed to have had comments off 1 or 2 of the same people tonight, so get them in, people. The more the merrier. Flying Foxes, we teased this one up just before the break here. Leicester City in the only game on Sunday night, absolutely demolishing a hapless Newcastle United side. Listen, I don't want to talk too much, John, about Leicester, save for the fact that they're really good. And when you've got someone like Ricardo Pereira, who charges forward from right back, fires one in with his left foot, there's not much you can do to defend against it, but getting Hayden sent off didn't help Newcastle. They were never in this, were they?
No, you can only beat what's in front of you, of course, but what was in front of Leicester was not even half a football team, really. Really disjointed. But Leicester, I thought Ndidi as well. Look, fantastic player. It's just a really... And Soyuncu, look, if you can get a song out of Soyuncu, you're doing really well, because I thought he was bang average in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, he's only had one bad game, I reckon, this season.
Yeah, let's hope it stays that way, because I like the look of this Leicester side. 4-3-3. Good fun to watch. And he sticks to his guns, Brendan Rodgers. You know what style he wants to play week in, week out.
Mark, back in the day when they were title winners, of course, I think it was Danny Simpson, wasn't it, who was up and down the right-hand side here. But now it's Pereira, who is one of the best in the business. I mean, I think anyone who plays Fantasy Premier League will tell you that he's someone you've wanted in your team from last season onwards. Look at his touch map here. 131 of them against Newcastle. And I keep coming back to that one where he drives forward and curls it in with his left foot. He can do just about all of it, can't he?
He can. I mean, he's such an astute signing when Leicester signed him a couple of seasons ago. And I think last season he was one of their best players, and he's continuing that form this season. And it suits Leicester down to a T. Players like Jamie Vardy, that he's able to find, the creativity now. Tielemans there. Obviously, Maddison didn't play. But yeah, very, very good player and done really well.
So what do Leicester achieve? I've asked this question a few times this season. Fox is a top 4. I said this a few weeks back. I said, forget top 6. I'm beginning to look at them as a top 4 side. Let's see if we can back this one up. Let's have a look at the touchscreen again and have a look at what they've done and what they're yet to do. I'm going to look at their results first here, John, because what I want to point out is that they've played Spurs. They won. They lost that one narrowly to Manchester United. They've got a draw from Chelsea early on. Then we turn to the fixtures, OK? And as far as their fixtures are concerned,
here we go.
Bang! Liverpool next, and they've got Arsenal round the corner. So this is going to define them, because even the other games are away. This run will define them.
To be fair, and I'll give you some credit, John. Not many people do.
Thank you.
You did call them out as potential Champions League finishers a few games ago,
right.
And I wasn't quite with you. After this run of games, if they get through this unscathed, I'm with you. I'm with you now.
Well, it's nice to have you with me. What about Mark? Why don't you jump in here, Mark? I mean, this run of games just strikes me. If you can go to Palace, not easy, and get something. If you can go to Brighton, Southampton even, and then, of course, they've got those so-called Big Six, particularly Liverpool. If they get some points out of that, they're in the mix, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I mean, even if they lose to Liverpool away, which would be no shame, the rest are very winnable, particularly the form that Leicester is showing at the moment. I mean, listen, the game yesterday, Isaac Hayden just played. I mean, Newcastle were poor to begin with, but his challenge was horrific. And he played right in their hands, and Newcastle rolled over. So that score yesterday was a little bit, I suppose, a false score in terms of where they are, but they have got potential, and it's about consistency.
Well, Mark, here's an interesting comment that's come in. John, you can answer this one. This is from Amma Obi. Someone said Leicester City is Man City B. Do you guys agree? Well, funnily enough, I seem to remember Jose Mourinho going on the television and saying Manchester City B would finish in the top 4 this season. So if that is the case, then
so it wasn't
I'm
someone,
right.
It was
no, it wasn't Jose who said it. No,
okay.
but you see his point here.
Yeah, I see his point. I'm just trying to wrap my brains to think of what Leicester City players get in the Man City side right now, and it's probably all of the back line. But yeah, I see what he's getting at. It's not quite as aesthetically pleasing.
Oja's gone with Leicester. Seems to be the perfect kind of project for Rodgers. That's a good point. It seems to be doing wonders there with the resources. That's a really good point, that one, I think. Oja suits Brendan. He suits them, right?
Yeah, it does. It's that 4-3-3 formation again that Rodgers likes to play, and it really does suit. Vardy keeps scoring goals. Vardy, more goals than Cristiano Ronaldo in the Premier League now.
You saw that as well. Yeah, in the first 100 and something games, he's got more goals than Ronaldo. Don't please get all angry about that. Just calm down, people on social media. Jerome, Mark, I want you to field this one. Kante, Mahrez and now Maguire gone. Rodgers came in and he made Leicester a genuine contender. I think they'll finish in the Champions League slot this season. Good bunch of young players and veterans. That's the interesting thing about them, isn't it? The mix in that team. I mean, Maddison, let's not forget one thing we haven't mentioned, Mark. They did that without Maddison last night, and they bring Harvey Barnes in, who will always do a job for you as well. He's an exciting player. I like that squad.
Yeah, listen, they've got some really good depth there. I mean, they've got some really good experience still there. I mean, Wes Morgan's on the bench. Listen, if he needs to, can come and do a job. I think, Johnny Evans has been excellent. And Ben Chilwell, like we said before, Pereira. So, yeah, they've got some really good players. Tielemans was key, keeping hold of him or signing him permanently. And like you guys were saying, I think it's a perfect match for someone like the manager to be at the club. I think Brendan Rodgers it's a perfect match for Leicester.
A lot of fondness for the Foxes amongst our viewers out there as well. Prem Nath saying Ndidi's doing a part-time degree. I saw that. Yeah, a good feature on Ndidi doing his degree. Bossing the midfield in the Premier League, seems to be the one giving the attackers the balance for Maddison to roam forward. Ndidi, an unsung hero. I think he could get in the Man City side.
Yeah,
Ndidi. I think he's that good, John.
Incredible athlete. I'd like to know, what degree is he studying? Can you remember?
It's a good point, that. Anyone knows, just write into us. Tell us, what is the degree? What's he studying? But he is doing a degree course right now. OK, that's Leicester City, and lots of love for Leicester City right now. On we go now to Andriy Yarmolenko and West Ham United. And, Bournemouth, given the form they're in, you don't really expect them to get anything out of that one, but they did. They came away from with a point from that one. They've accumulated a lot of points already this season. We've been talking about that one. John, why don't you start us off on this one? Because I know that when I mentioned Yarmolenko as a talking point, you got interested. Why?
He looks a very different footballer than he did when he was playing for Borussia Dortmund. He had a season at Borussia Dortmund, and I thought he was average, and I was kind. He was stuck out on the right wing with little support in the black and yellow. Looks very different now, drifts in centrally, and I think he's as good as anyone on his day.
Mark, before we analyse how he plays in this team, this is a good headline. He looks like West Ham's new cult hero, absolutely, in terms of the way they reacted to him. When he came in, I must confess, I thought that's a left field signing. What did you make of the signing at the time?
Yeah, I was the same. I think West Ham, I think it was a signing that sort of kind of typifies where West Ham were at the time as a club and type of player they can attract. A player that probably hasn't lived up to expectations elsewhere, has shown promise, and here's a platform. Here's an opportunity to show and shine and deliver that promise.
Let's have a look at what West Ham are doing right when they go forward in particular here. They have flexibility in here. Remember, they're doing this one without Mikel Antonio out for some time just now. Declan Rice is the key, isn't he, in many ways?
He is. You and I are both fans of him, John, and I think he's, he'll get a lot of England call-ups. I really do believe that. That's his best spot there. I prefer him in that central midfield holding area rather than anything else. This is key over here. The combination of Felipe Anderson and Fornals, they do very similar jobs, actually. But I really do like the look of those two. Noble as well can bomb forward. What I do, if I could just change this over, this is West Ham in the beginning of games, when they're trying to stamp some authority on games. When they're got a little bit of wind in their sails. You could just change that over to 2 there.
So you want these guys sort of coming into a 3 or something, do you?
Yeah, so Noble just comes over. And look, Fornals and Felipe Anderson, they can just switch and they can just cover each other. Seb Haller, he is, 45 million he cost West Ham, and I think last season he was involved in nearly as many goals as Robert Lewandowski in the Bundesliga. An exceptional player he's got another few seasons before he hits his peak.
So they can spring, they can switch tactically, they're ball hungry, something you mentioned earlier when we were talking about
when you drift into that 4-3-3, it's a ball hungry formation where there's a lot of passing options. It's where, as long as there's movement ahead of the man on the ball, they will keep possession. And they've got some really good technicians. Keep giving Declan Rice credit. Good athlete, great. He would be a fantastic professional, but technically he knows his position on the field, which is his first port of call is Fornals or Felipe Anderson.
Yeah, and it's working for them. Also, the manager, of course, needs a bit of credit, I would imagine. He's getting that from the viewers. Oja, I think, again, the X factor for West Ham is Pellegrini, who's had the confidence of the club and worked hard to get where they are now. Yeah, that's right. I mean, let's have a look at his numbers, shall we, Pellegrini, because he has been the most successful of the last 6 managers. I mean, it's fascinating to look back from Moyes to Bilic to Allardyce, Avram Grant, Zola. Wow, what a collection that is there. And his win percentage, I'm sorry about the tiny numbers down there, 42.3%. That's the best. That's the best, quite comfortably, of all those managers. So, Mark, Pellegrini's getting a tune out of West Ham, a club that we know have been difficult to tune lately.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they've always been, I think, a funny club in terms of they have to have the right fit in manager, personality. The fans are very demanding. And I think Pellegrini's just come in at the right time. He's got a lot of experience. He's been able to attract big name players to help try and, more experienced players to steady the ship a bit. And, Sebastian Haller, who you mentioned there before, I thought he was very good on the weekend. His touch to South Yarmolenko goal was sublime. So, yeah, they're getting a really good mix now. Declan Rice, like you said, brilliant.
Right. One major problem we have to quickly flag up there. Lucas Fabianski is going to be missing, according to reports, for something like 3 months. He's torn a muscle, I think, in his thigh. And that leaves them with Roberto Jimenez, whose only experience, I think, so far was letting in 4 against Oxford the other night in the League Cup. But, John, when we look at their fixtures going forward, I think you're anticipating a drop-off from West Ham. I mean, they've got 1 or 2 players who might be able to step up, but how long can they keep this up?
I think they get over this 6 fixtures, and I think they'll start running out of steam. Look, playing against Palace, going away to Goodison's going to be tough. Fortunately, they got Newcastle at home, and I see them getting points there. It's going to be difficult away at Burnley. Likewise, Spurs. Over the festive period, I think you're going to see them drop off a little bit. But I think after this 6, maybe they've done just enough to be teetering around top 10.
And of course, once given what they are, if they are in contention, then January they won't be shy to buy, and that's why they're going to be a fun club to watch this season. All right, that's where we're going to put the Premier League to bed right now, because it was a huge weekend in Europe, but unfortunately we built up to the big Madrid derby on Friday and it turned out to be lacking in magic. Meanwhile, in the Bundesliga, Leipzig went and lost, and we'll discuss both of those things when we come back. This is a busy old show, and we're going to be heading off to Europe when we come back after this very short break, so do stay with us here. We'll be talking La Liga, we'll be talking Bundesliga, we'll be getting into Serie A with John Wilkinson and Mark Schwartz, and of course we'd invite comments from you on any of those leagues. Anything you got to say, keep those comments coming in. See you in a moment. Welcome back. Oh, La Liga's been a lot of fun. Lot of fun this season, and that continued this weekend. Villarreal, credit to them, 5-1 winners over Real Betis. What was interesting elsewhere was Barcelona managed to pick up a win on the road for the first time this season. In fact, it was their first in 8 in the league, bizarrely enough. 0-0 in a disappointing Madrid derby there. Other teams quickly to mention as we look at this one. Sociedad have been going great guns, but Sevilla had their number with a 3-2 victory. But all eyes were on the Wanda Metropolitano, and we really thought there was going to be a spectacular game unfolding there. It wasn't to be. The magic was missing, was gone. It just wasn't in this game here, which surprised. It was nothing. It was just a nothing game. You could see the disappointment in Marca there. It was asked before now. Everyone disappointed with the game. You know, you thought it was going to be Benzema and company firing on all cylinders. You thought it was going to be Joao Felix, the new star, and Costa, and the finishing was dreadful, John.
They're not, and you almost went, didn't you? At some point. It was just,
yeah, I know.
But Zidane and Real Madrid, they're not in that place right now. They're not in that place. And at the end of October, I think the 26th of October, they've got the El Clasico. And Zidane can't afford to lose that one. For his job's sake. I just don't think he can afford to lose that. Right now, it looks to me as if Real Madrid and Zidane are putting all their stock in defensive stability and putting their hands together and praying that Eden Hazard starts performing better, starts shedding a couple more kilos, starts performing better, and they will perform better up top eventually. They've just got through a whole difficult bunch of fixtures, and they're still 2 points ahead of Barcelona, which is key.
No, let's face it, whether it's Bale or Kroos or the young Italians, Brazilian guy, someone's going to turn up here. Yeah. Jerome's in touch again. La Liga's fun to watch right now. We're seeing Barcelona in an unusual spot in the table. They'll bounce back. Could this be the season where they finish outside the top 2? Well, maybe not. I mean, you talked about Zidane's job insecurity. Valverde wasn't exactly getting rave reviews, but look what they did. They took full advantage, didn't they, of what happened this weekend. So slip-ups there for Real, for Atletico, not for Granada, who are just magnificent. I love what they're doing here. Sociedad as well, which means Barcelona, from lowly 7th, find themselves in the top 4, 2 off the lead. And I wouldn't say that's too much of a crisis for them right now. Mark, what are you making of what's going on in La Liga, particularly set against the backdrop of Champions League being up and running right now? You know, it's interesting that they haven't quite clicked the two giants.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I was at the Champions League game actually in Paris when PSG beat Real Madrid, dismantled them. It was men against boys. But it's interesting to see how the league is performing at the moment, to see how tight it is. To say there's 2 points between the top 5 teams is great. Traditionally, we see Barcelona, Real Madrid kind of running away with it, and now we're seeing a real good fight on there, and it's exciting to watch.
Talk about excitement. Let's hop across from Spain to Germany right now, and the Bundesliga this weekend really threw up all sorts of drama. I looked at the fixtures, John, and I wasn't quite sure what we were going to get out of it. What we got out of it was, okay, and by no means easy for Bayern Munich, but they got the victory, whereas Leipzig, who looked like they were going to be the threat, the challenge, well, they came up against Wagner's Schalke, and they got beaten, didn't they, for the first time here. Dortmund